I just like the term all in. To be fully committed to a task or endeavor. I have a post-it, I have a sheet right in front of me that just challenges me every day to make sure I'm all in.
Well, welcome to the Build to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. We believe the key to scaling and compounding your wealth and life starts every single day with the mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal is to help you scale your wealth, compound your life, so you can make a bigger impact for MVPs, most vulnerable people. My name is Brett Swarts. I'm so excited about our next guest. In fact, he's a repeat guest to the Build to Billions podcast and also the Capital Gains Tax Research podcast. He's now become a longtime friend. It feels like we've known each other forever, but I think we've known each other for about 3 or 4 or 5 years now. First met at the Family Office Club. He's out of the great state of Illinois in the Chicago area. He has a tremendous background in a lot of different things, but he has a unique background in a few things. In fact, he began his career at Merrill Lynch in 1982, working in building operations at the Chicago Board of Trade at just 20 years old. And with an extensive background in both corporate and entrepreneurial settings, he has led firms' capital raising and demand generation efforts. In fact, this is pretty prolific. I call him a Hall of Famer capital raiser. Over the past 35 years, he's raised over $2.5 billion for clients and played key roles in 5 IPOs, and widely recognized for his expertise in investor education, capital raising, and demand generation, and so much more. Please welcome to the show, Chief Revenue Officer of Regiment Securities, Dean DeLisle. Dean, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Phenomenal. Great to see you as always. And I'm looking forward to the wisdom we're about to glean from you. So for our listeners who get to know you for the first time, give us the 90-second version. They can always go back to the other interviews, but just give the 90-second versions, and then we're going to dive into atom smashing and what that means for everyone listening today, which you're going to want to listen if you're an entrepreneur, business owner, investor.
Yeah, great. So yeah, no, it's exciting. It's funny. I started off at Merrill Lynch, and I was in the, like you mentioned, in '82. That was a long time ago, in the data space, right? And now all of a sudden, fast forward, I'm a partner in a investment bank, and part owner and chief revenue officer. And it's just interesting how my career has just exploded towards that direction, right? And it almost feels like it's opportunistic, but not an accident, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. It's incredible. It's incredible. And so let's dive right into the topic, which is atom smashing, right? So give us that concept.
Well,
and yeah.
And more specifically, it's atom smashing for capital, right?
Okay, good. Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is you think about, take it back to what atoms are, right? So atoms aren't powerful just sitting by themselves, right? Mm-hmm. Just sitting there, individual atoms, right? It's not until they collide that energy and all kinds of cool stuff comes out of that, right? And we could go on and on the science side, but what I wanted to do is, this was like one of those epiphanies after I wrote my first book, which we had an interview on. It's called First. It's on Amazon, and it's basically a street guide about how to just succeed or get whatever you want, man. Just like win your game, whatever that game is. And now that I've raised so much capital using it, and people use it for job creation, sales, everything else. But now that we've raised so much capital using the methodology, I'm like, I need a dedicated book just toward this. And I was sitting there with some of my buddies, and the founder at Regiment is a powerful network force here in Chicago. I'm a powerful network force here in Chicago. We've known each other for 15 years, and it's one of those things where you just pass people in life, and you're like, hey, we're going to do something. We got to do something someday. You and I say that sometimes. It's like, hey, we got to do a deal. It's like you say that, and then life shows up, and you both get sucked into different areas. But if you take a moment and really intend that, and now you put those two forces together, crazy stuff happens. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so when Mike and I came together last year, we just even put our toe in the water with sampling our network. Then I officially became a partner, and Regiment, which is a 5-year boutique investment bank, all of a sudden it grew like 60% in 7 months, so we're just like, what is going on? But it's like we're both just doing our thing, right? It's not like we added a whole bunch of money or did anything like that. It was our networks coming together and the power of the two of us coming together to make that sort of collision happen, right? So we made that collision happen, and then boom, and that doesn't even have to do with the capital. That's just growing a business.
Right. Okay. So I got it. I think the first secret here is how can you be intentional about those that are, either aren't in your life, that you're just, you're well connected. You guys are both busy. Obviously your networks and your expertise and your backgrounds are like, okay, if we actually get really intentional about this and to see if we can't bring these two forces together, what it could just compound, exponentially. Is that the first part of the secret for atom smashing for capital or atom smashing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's about, and so what's interesting is I think you mentioned about entrepreneurs, business owners, founders, things like that. And sometimes they're working so doggone hard on the business, and I've been guilty of this too, that they don't see the opportunity of putting more productive atoms together in that business. And if it's for raising capital, you need to add those people, right? Those critical people. And they need to have a significant reach and network. If it's for revenue, you need to add that atom and smash that atom into the business, right? So it's interesting when people just look at maybe somebody's resume, but they don't look at the power of their network and make sure that person knows how to leverage that network. That's the other.
So let's walk through that for a second. So you mentioned Mike, and you mentioned, you guys both have this amazing network and expertise. What else about the strengths and the different things that complement did you say, okay, here's really what also help to make this thing a huge success?
Well, he's focused a lot on the banking side, but then a lot of duties were falling on him to generate revenue and to, just no different than any other founder, CEO, compliance. There's just all these jobs that fall on, especially an investment bank, on the person that's in charge of all that. And I said, well, my whole background is generating revenue. I know you generate revenue, but if I just focus on that, how good could we do? So then it's about taking those talents and driving those energies and that force that I have, and then activating my network and start atom smashing towards being an investment banker, a broker dealer. It's like I never focused on that before. I focused on going to an issuer, doing a campaign and raising capital for that issuer and increasing revenue. It wasn't one of these things where I was like, wow, I'm going to do this as an investment banker. So it was a whole new thing, right? And not too many people, I don't know if you know this, Brett, but I am 62. Not too many people reinvent themselves again at 62. Not that I've reinvented completely, but
Yeah.
but I had to take my Series 7. I had to do the 63. I had to take all these exams. I don't know if you've ever studied. I know you're
I
a
have. I
CPA.
passed the
I don't know if you've
63
ever
and I
studied
passed
for
the
these things
22.
recently, but the older you get, the tougher it gets.
I can't imagine. Yeah. I passed them, I think over 10 years ago, the 22 and the 63, and they're not easy tests. And yeah, so to pass the 7 and 63, that's
While you're working 70 hours a week.
Yeah, that's a feat in itself. I remember when I passed it, I walked out of there just like, thank you, Jesus. Like this is, I probably passed by the skin of my teeth. It's what it felt like. So,
well, it's funny. I've got a really good friend of mine, and I was telling him while I was studying, and he knew this stuff because he had a Series 3. He was in commodities, and I'm like, come on, you got to just take these tests, and I can start giving you business. I can start helping you make money. He had been out of work for a period of time. But he was one of these corporate guys that held out for the corporate gig. He just got his corporate gig, and his company literally is giving him 4 weeks off to take all these tests. I couldn't even imagine getting paid while I'm studying to take this test.
Hey, it's a win-win. So let's, by the way, Dean DeLisle, everybody, if you want to connect with him right now, you go to regentsecurities.com, Regiment Securities.
Regiment Securities.
I'm sorry, Regiment. I'm sorry, regimentsecurities.com, regimentsecurities.com. Okay, so what's the next secret to this atom smashing or thought that you want to make sure we're gathering here that is important?
Yeah, so I think it's about, when you think about, especially for, founders or fund managers, people like that, it's a lot of people think they need to just, pound the phones. You know that term, right? Everybody's like, you just got to pound the phones until somebody agrees to give you money, And I'm like, no, no, no. This isn't, just about who you know and who you connect to. It's about who trusts you, and who's willing to move when you do. It's like who's going to move with you, and it's about this momentum piece where it's not like just put your money in and I'll let you know how things happen. It's getting people, how they use the analogy, row the boat together, right? So it's one of those things where I think, most people tend to just think it's transactional, but it's completely relational because you and I both know this. People that are high net worth individuals, family offices, they run together. They run with other people that are high net worth individuals. In fact, so many family offices identify themselves as multi-family offices. There's a reason for that. They're atom smashing. They're putting their forces together, for multifamily housing or technology or crypto or whatever it is they're doing. They're putting those forces together toward that direction. So one of the things we had people do, and I did this in my first book, and we're going to go through the drill a little more detail in Atom Smashing for Capital. But I always thought about a championship team. Like, what does a championship team look like? When you study, you study all the top hedge funds. You study, all the top firms, whether they're private equity or whatever. And they raise a ton of capital and they place a ton of capital and they have a lot of success. It's all about that team that they have around them, right? And so what I had people do individually, in fact, I've got the reps. We have 35 reps. I have them doing this right now, and they're booking meetings and seeing success almost instantly from it. Is I have them re-inventory their team, and I'm like, well, how much money do you want to make this year? You want to make 500,000? You want to make 750? You want to make a million? Build a team that's going to take you there, right? And most people are stay in the comfort zone and keep the people with them they've always had that have never helped them get there, and they're actually in the way. It's not that you can't still, hang out with them, have a cup of coffee or a beer with them, but it's about intentionally playing with players that are playing at a top, sort of a top level, if you will, to help drive whatever it is you're trying to do. And especially if it's raising capital, it's significant. That's a whole different network, right? That's a specialized network of people that speak differently, that do things differently. It's a whole different language. Sometimes you have to learn that language of how to speak in there. Because when I was, raising all the capital, I was doing it through a lot of it through marketing efforts and not getting fees for raising that capital. I was just getting service fees, but not success fees. And when you jump into the game of success fees, that's a whole new thing. I mean, think about that 2.5, billion if I had just gotten 3% success fees on that money. We'd probably be having a whole different podcast from my private island right now.
When you say that, Dean, are you referring to like ownership, or when you define real fast service versus success fee so people know?
Oh yeah, so it was investor acquisition marketing. So it was marketing fees to drive investors to that issuer. So it was about storytelling. That's what we do. That's what I've always done. It's about helping to define the founder's story, the story of the business. Go out there and do some general solicitation for educational webcasts. I think I've clocked over 20,000 webcasts in my life, which is crazy to think about. I was doing it, Brett, back during dial-up. I was one of those guys, right? So I was that painful guy that when people had modems, does everybody remember what a modem is? Probably the young people don't.
Yeah.
But that crazy noise in the background when you're just trying to connect,
Right.
And now we're on gig speed right now,
Right.
So,
Right.
but it's like, so then what you do is you attract a general audience with a hook, just like marketing, and bring those people in to listen and hopefully invest in your company. And we always had a methodology where it didn't just generate capital, but it generated revenue. And that's one of the big things. I actually did that for public companies too, where I was going into investor relations and using it to drive up the stock price. I did it at GE. I did it at McDonald's. I've done it at a whole bunch of programs.
Okay, so that's service fees, right? So it's marketing, storytelling, webinars, education to drive awareness, which then they may make an investment or may make a purchase of something. So that's that one. Versus success fees is,
well, you achieve the capital for somebody. You make them $10 million, and you make 5, 6, 7, 10% off of that.
Right. Yep. Got it. Yeah.
Whole different game.
Whole different game. Okay. Excellent. So yeah, you get licensed. The atom smashing. The idea here is more than just the who. It's who can trust you and how can you get the right people on the team, and it maybe replacing or adding to the team or getting a whole new set of a championship team. So it's understanding that piece of it. What's the next kind of secret here when it comes to atom smashing for capital?
It's playing your team, man. So we have a team structured with starters, bench players. We also have structured with practice squad, and then we have a farm team, right? So it's no different than think about baseball, basketball, football, right? That's how they're all structured. That's how I studied this. And the thing is, when you're playing your team, it's no different than when you and I had a call, I think it was 4 days ago or something like that. And we had a call 4 days ago, and it was me just checking in, like, how can I help you? What do you need? And then you asked me, how can I help you, Dean? Who do you need to meet? And it's about building that relationship, but creating movement, right? It's not just about having the conversation, but the most important thing is follow through. So, like as soon as you told me what you were doing and you sent me your one pager, I sent it out to my entire team, all 35 reps. So now all of a sudden, that magnified that one thing you need and wanted more business in. I let 35 networks, not just people, but activated networks know what Brett Swarts is doing.
I love how you got it so practical, right? Because I think it's probably the difference, right? Good intentions and good marketing, good stuff, but then if they don't take it to action and actually do the thing, and then we're getting to the starters, bench players, practice squad, and farm team, but that makes sense. Follow through. I think, one of my other mentors was talking about how he has an entire list of all of his network and all of how can I help them connect. And he's looking at a list every single week. Like, okay, here's the 25 or the 50 folks, right? And then boom. Oh yeah, Dean can connect over here. And he has a system to connecting his network with other people in his network. And he says that single practice has changed his career forever, right? And it's like his number one thing that he does.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's interesting too. There's something that comes out of it. I call it magic moments, right? So there's this part where, and I make this really easy, Brett. I'm like, every single day, if you could take, how many hours are there in a week, Brett?
168.
Yeah, 168. So if you could take 20 minutes a day and just do what I'm about to tell you, it creates movement, right? With atoms smashing, right? It creates movement. So what I'm having you do is I'm having you look at that, and it's a 40-person team that you start out with, and you're just connecting to 2 of those people every day, just 2, right? So you're taking 10 minutes to reach out and connect to those 2 people, and you may just have to book a time with them, or you may connect with them. And a lot of times I text, I email, whatever it takes. So I get those 2 people out of my team, and that is my current or old team, right? Then what I do is those people have then referred people to me, and those are new people. Those people are down in the farm team, right? So those people, I don't even know their capabilities. I don't know how good they are. I don't even know if I want to play with them. I don't know if I want them on my team. They were just referrals, right? So now I take and I dip into that referral farm team. And just like when players, it's baseball season, people are bringing up players and sending down players all the time, right? I'll go after just 2 of those a day. So I have two of my people on my team that I connect to and two new people each and every day. That's a bare minimum. Because what I did is I talked to founders, especially, and I said, how much time could I get from you per day where if I could create movement toward this capital raise for you, that would have a net effect. And actually I started this with generating sales with founders because they were too busy to generate sales sometimes. And they said, I'll give you 20 minutes. And I polled a whole bunch of founders. I said, 20 minutes a day, you're going to commit to that. So that's how I came up with this. Was I was like, okay, so now we have this, we have them map out their team. I'm like, you're going to go to these two players and you're just going to go through the list, right? You're going to cycle through the list of 40. You're going to go to these, two of these a day, two of these a day, and two of these. And it's funny because we started calling it I call it scouting and drafting, right? But they would always call it too old, too new, so they could remember it, right? I'm taking two from the old list and two from the new list, and I'm atom smashing, right? I'm connecting to those people, so it'll be hilarious. I'll talk to somebody, I'll pick up the phone, it'll go, hey buddy, it's the too old, too new. I'm just checking in on you. How are things going?
Okay, let me get I got this, because when you're saying team members, at first I was thinking like your entire, like your internal team. What you're referring to is your network is the entire, let's just call it the Chicago Bulls, right?
Yep.
And you've got the starters, you've got, Michael, you've got Scotty, right? And, and then you got some of your bench players coming off the bench, and then you got the practice squad, no one knows their name, and you got the farm team who might even try to make it. And what you're saying is you're taking a couple of the starters every day, connecting them with maybe a couple of the farm team, a couple of the practice, a couple of the bench. Like, is it all through there? Is that a good feel for that? Or
Yeah, and you're just playing two a day. That's all you're doing. You're not playing the whole team all at once. I mean, the whole team is activated and playing all at once, but you're only playing two players a day. Now you can obviously you can accelerate that, right? You can play 4 players in a day.
So let's walk through that. When you say play, you mean basically like, how do I help them? Who do they know that I should know? Who do they know that I think they should know? How can I help? Basically, how do I help them? How do I help them get what they want?
Reciprocity, man. How can you help them too?
Exactly, kind of what we did last week, like you're just saying, right? And so you pick two and too old, too new, right? Two current ones that have already done business with. You've already have a trusted relationship. You're already like, boom, these guys are the starters. We're doing stuff. We've already done it. We've made money together, right? Boom. Then you have those that are like, I don't know if these new guys are going to do it or not, but we got to give them a chance to get in the farm. We got to get, and then you have those somewhere in the middle, right? Okay, got it. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, and it's funny because like even whether I go to Family Office Club or I go to a networking event anywhere, I'm like, I really am just looking for my next starter, right? I need the one, right? In that room, in that entire room. So what I'll do is I'll go to the organizer or whatever that event is, of whoever that event is, and say, hey, or I'll get the list ahead of time and say, I need to meet this person. And I'll pick 5 just in case that one person isn't there and I got a backup, right? So I'll pick 5 people, but I just care about walking away with one new relationship, right? And if I can walk away with 5, that's a bonus. But what's interesting is when you go in with that intention, you're not just, and it's funny, I'll talk to somebody and I can feel if they're not the right person for who I'm drafting at that moment. And I'll just go, I'm sorry, I have to actually go catch somebody else right now.
Yeah.
And I'll just excuse myself, right? It's just politely excuse myself. I'm not going to tie up 30 minutes, 40 minutes of a conversation if I don't believe it's going to go anywhere.
Okay, this is really good. Again, we're speaking with Mr. Dean DeLisle, Regiment Securities.com, regimentsecurities.com, Adam Smashing for Capital. Okay, so you've established your bench players, your farm players, your starters, right? Your practice squad. Is there any other delineation between like the practice squad versus the bench player? I think we got the farm and the starters pretty clear, but anything else to delineate that you want to point out on those two?
Well, the practice squad hasn't earned their right to start or to be on the bench, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Just think about that. We laugh about that because now NFL, football season's coming up and everybody's like, oh my gosh, who are the starters? Who's going to make the team? Oh my gosh, the practice squad is going to start getting cut soon. They're going down to farm team, or maybe they're going on to one of these other leagues, or what are they going to do? going back to bagging groceries or whatever.
Kurt Warner, right? His whole story. If you watch that, by the way, his documentary, like mockumentary, I guess it's like a movie, it's phenomenal. I forget what it's called.
I love that.
He was literally bagging the groceries, right? And then whatever, a year later, he's winning the Super Bowl. It's absolutely an incredible story. But keep going. Okay, so that's the practice squad. And then what about the bench player? What delineates the bench players?
Well, the bench play, your starters are like rocking all the time without you even needing to talk to them. They're showing up. They're just playing at that top tier level, right? And you're probably doing your most regular deals with those people.
I also think you probably don't have to really, train or coach them much. I mean, encourage them, right? You just kind of it's like the thoroughbred. Just you don't drive the thoroughbred. You water the thoroughbred, right? It's like you hear that saying, and then the bench players are probably the ones that you got to really kind of coach up. You got to support more because you got to help them become starters. Is that maybe another good point to delineate there?
Absolutely. And you know what I talk about this in my first book as well is I consciously put down, like, from a scale of 1 to 5, a relationship score. Like, where am I at with this relationship, right? And I test it. I just see if it's responding, if it's working out well. Because it's like, right now, like for you and I think on a scale of 1 to 5, I think we could be a 5, but I think we're about a 3. Right. So, I think if we did a little more, have a little more conversation, sat down in person a little more, so next time I'm down in Florida, we peel off and you and I sit down and dig through things of how to strategically and tactily help one another, then I think that's a whole different relationship.
Absolutely. And I remember the first time I met you too. Actually, I was speaking at Family House Club and you were speaking before me or after me, whatever. And I sat down, it was the speaker's table. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And like, who's Dean? I never met you before, never seen you before. And I'm like really excited to be on that stage because Richard honored me with the opportunity. And so I get up there and I talk and again, I don't know if you spoke before me or after, but then you got up and talked and I was like, oh man, like this is a whole nother level. You're, in the 2 point, the billions, right? And I was like, I'm 150 million, but it's like, I want to get to the billion. Like, who's Dean? Like Dean, I want to meet Dean. Right. And now we've had a chance to deliver some relationship. And you're right. It has been a little bit slower going. Right. And we've been some close on some things. And so I like that. So yeah, just being real with it and say, hey, what's the relationship score? How can we be a little more strategic? And I think it's being a good steward of your time and your talents, Dean, right? Because at the end of the day, if you say yes to everything, then you're saying no to the most important things, right?
Correct.
And so you got to say no to most of everything to say yes to the most important things. Like it's just the reality. There's 160 hours a week. The average American male lives to 70 years. The average female 73 years, and we only have so much time, and this earth to do the things that the good Lord's called us to go do and do the work He's called us to do. So I think and indeed, you have a heart that cares for people, and you have a heart that cares, but at the same time, like you set those boundaries to be very clear about, hey, am I being a good steward? So I think that's wise. What is the next secret area? Anything else that we haven't asked about, Adam smashing for capital that you want to touch on?
I think the biggest thing is just to be disciplined to play every day. Most people, they get really good and they get pumped up, and especially when we would do the big workshops on this, and they would get all pumped up, and then literally after a couple weeks later, I'd check in on them. We'd have accountability calls, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, this came up and that came up."
Right.
And,
how do you best stay ultra disciplined in these kind of things? Like is there a practice that helps you to keep it systematized and disciplined?
I book it in my calendar, man. And when I wake up and after meditation in the morning in the gym, I got 2 old, 2 new right in there in my calendar.
Okay. So walk through it. Even this morning or even on last week or Friday, was there one that kind of pops out for you that you're like, hey, this is the person and this is what I did. You can say the name if you want or not, but just like what came to mind on the last couple that you've done lately?
Yeah, I think it was I'm on some very specific capital raises right now, and so I knew specifically that based on that person's industry background and their access to capital, for the type of capital that I needed was good. So I met Ken. We're just going to use Ken as the name. So I meet Ken, and we just hit it off. And then next thing I know, like we talked 3 times in 1 week, and that's not easy to do for busy people in the capital space, right? But it jumped out of the gate so fast, felt so good that now all of a sudden, man, he's going from practice to bench and may even bump one of my starters.
Got it. And then and walk through that practically. Like, so you can just talk about what you're raising for. This would be good. Like, so what?
Yeah.
What,
So
what
this
you,
one is
yeah.
in particular is a new raise. We just closed out a raise for S2A modular, and now and we just closed out one raise, and now we have $150 million raise on the street. And this particular person owns a company that does automation and robotics for modular. And he has access to a ton of developments and a ton of capital. He's had 3 successful exits himself. And so it just made sense for us to continue to talk, because I can help him. I have connections throughout the entire modular. I speak at modular conferences, etc. So I have connections to all these modular companies. I could help him. He could help me fast track and reduce my cost and increase profitability for the investors coming into S2A modular.
Okay, got it. So the modular, you had that network. He didn't necessarily have that as much or at all. And then automation robotics, he had that network and you didn't have as much or at all. And so basically you're like, okay, how do we just basically help one another? Pretty simple. It's really easy.
Real easy.
And you said access to capital and then access to the development or relationship. So those are the key things there. Yeah, it's really pretty simple when you think that through. Okay, this is cool. What else? I mean, anything else that I missed that you mentioned?
I want to go back to you.
Cool.
So I told you I might do this. So
Yeah.
so can you think of a moment where you did your own atom smashing, and based on one single relationship that you created, where all of a sudden you just had this whole new track of business you didn't think about or count on, or capital?
Yeah. So in the relationship, it comes to a gentleman named Jake, and he's a financial advisor, and he's actually really good at real estate as well. And that one particular relationship has led to, excess multiple clients, multiple millions of dollars of, under our trusteeship. The biggest thing for me that I brought to him was this expertise of capital gains tax solutions, right? To help his clients who were exiting these large assets that had massive capital gains tax. And for him, it gives him the ability to exponentially manage more capital, right? That otherwise would have just been paid in tax, or even worse, had been zero, because the people don't sell. A lot of people do not sell if they can't solve the capital gains tax. And so it's let's call it almost like a 100x type of opportunity, because otherwise that whole deal just kind of goes away. And who knows if he loses it to someone else who solves the problem. And so that is definitely an atom smash where we both came together, and it helped him, helped me. And it also helped, obviously the client's really happy too, because a lot of these people want to be out of the toilets, trash, termites, want to be selling the business, right? Want to exit the Bitcoin that's highly appreciated and diversify. But without the capital gains tax plan, everything kind of stops, right? And without him having the relationship and the trust with that particular client he's been helping and servicing for years, he, sometimes the tax and the capital gains tax and the IRS can be a little bit scary when you're exiting and you have lots of taxes. And so he's got to bring that trust that he has with the client, and we've got to bring our expertise to help to deliver this. Yeah, we smashed together, and one of them in particular, I'll give you the actual deal, is I think it's about an $8 million apartment sale in Utah. And so the client lived in Montana, and they have massive capital gains tax, and we helped them exit, defer all of that. And what's so cool is he paid off his debt, diversified his wealth, and was able to place the capital in multiple, syndications, different debt places. And it's been a huge win for everybody. And I just had a chance to meet with this cool couple. And that's my favorite part, in Montana, when we were on our family kind of a vacation trip this about a month ago. And we sat down at this, diner and met them for the first time in person, and seeing their lives changed, and all of the, I think that's the other part of it, is just like the impact that this can bring to people, because, here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions, we exist to unlock capital or capital gains to multiply freedom and impact. And this massive 100 trillion that's transferring in the next 15 years, I think is the ultimate opportunity for the atom smash, right? Because otherwise, either it's going to go to the government or people aren't going to sell, or if they sell and don't have a solution, then this impact can't happen for them right now. And so this is, I think we're in this golden age here, Dean, with what's going on.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And that's also, a lot of things we can't control. I was thinking about this while you were talking, is we can't control the government. We can't control the markets, right? We have to adjust for that. And sometimes when conditions adjust, you also have to adjust, and you have to adjust your team. And a lot of people don't think about that. Again, they cling on what they think is the champion team, right? Mm-hmm. And then the dynamics change around them, but the team isn't the right team for the new dynamics or the new market or the new pivot that they have to go through. So.
Absolutely. Dean, we're totally out of time. You ready for the lightning round?
All right, lightning round.
Let's rock and roll. Okay, number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
Whew. I like the book. Wow, there's so many. I've read like 7 in the last year. I like the book Traction.
Mm-hmm. It's a great book. Gino Wickman, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Excellent. Question number 2, number one way using ChatGPT.
Let's see. To see if my lawyer's right.
That's good.
Check legal documents.
Yeah, if the lawyer is right. Do you just drop it in there and say, is he right, or anything?
Well, I just say I have a whole sort of prompt, engineering thesis behind it, and then based on what I'm using it for, I'll ask specific questions to make sure those outcomes are being protected or driven. So.
That's awesome. Love it. Next question. What are you most curious about right now?
Curious about where all this crypto is going to go. Mm-hmm. The whole crypto market, because we have a whole crypto team and they're exploding. And then I'm always like cautiously optimistic going, okay, so what's going to happen next?
Mm-hmm. Good question. Even Bitcoin, where's that going to go? Right. I mean, it's a whole wild west. It feels like at times. Next question. Number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by.
I think all in. I just like the term all in. To be fully committed to a task or endeavor. I have a post-it. I have a sheet right in front of me that just challenges me every day to make sure I'm all in.
Excellent. And the very last question: after all your success, helping all the people you helped, and raising all the capital you've raised, and all of the things, Dean, how do you best keep a mindset of stewardship over ownership in your daily life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm dealing right now with these on a project with these inner city schools. Mm-hmm. I think Daniel, right? So from Foundation Academies, and just being on the journey of helping all these inner city kids is like helping myself. Because if you read my book, I went through some rough parts growing up. So just knowing that I can give all those kids a chance to make it through and have a career like I had. So,
Dean DeLisle, it's been an absolute pleasure as always, and an honor. We covered some awesome, amazing content here in the last 38 minutes. I want to thank you for using the gifts and talents that you're doing every single day and not settling, right? Going all in for the next chapter and season here. Thank you for teaching us about, teams and bench players and a farm team and starters and all of these neat things. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
Regiment.securities.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Dean. And I also want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Build to Billions podcast. We're also streaming on the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and YouTube channel. Me and Dean touched briefly on that. If you're exiting a highly appreciated asset, Bitcoin, business, real estate, and you have massive capital gains taxes and or estate taxes that you're facing, we have a great, amazing solution for you. You just go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn more about that. It's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. We also wrote a book on it called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. You can check that out on Amazon. And for all of you today, I want to encourage you to share this with somebody somebody who could help them in all of their things, right? Whether they're raising capital or building a business, anything in between, the idea of atom smashing and compounding your wealth and your impact starts with you right now, and also sharing this with somebody that could also make an impact for them when the information gets shared. So please do that. We so appreciate everyone listening or watching out there, and we'll talk to you all again soon. Bye now.